Good night, Belizeans at home and abroad. This is the Belizeans Affairs Show number 291. 291. My name is Leonard Brackett. Today being Friday, I'll be the chairman for tonight's program, and I'd like to express my gratitude to those of you who are tuning in to hear us live tonight. We hope that we will bring something, a program that is worthy of your attention and that will create some positive public benefits on your behalf. Being Friday night, we always try to deal with some constitutional matters as well as legal and case law issues. Tonight will be one of those nights. We'll deal with case law matters as well as constitutional matters. Um, if you allow me just a minute, I would like to see if I can go ahead quickly and kick off the other part of our program on the Facebook Live section. Just bear me a second. I'll just want to take this off of the security lock and put it on public. That's what I'm doing right now. Kick off the other part of our program on the Facebook Live. Unlock section. Okay. Just give me a second. I'll just want to take this off of the. Okay. Oh no, I did it. I did it on the wrong phone. I'm sorry. Please spare me another few minutes. I did it on the wrong phone. I did it on the phone that I have my data for the program, and then I wouldn't be able to allow that to be free to the public. I'll need to be using that. So I need to quickly. Just a second. Let me see. What am I doing here? Okay. I'm sorry. Please spare me another few minutes. I did it on the wrong phone. I did it on the phone that I have my data for the program, and then I wouldn't be able to allow that to be free to the public. I need to be using that. So I need to. Okay. Post. Okay. Just a few more seconds here. Let me see what's going on here. 1, 2. Okay. Okay. Let's see. From. Okay, got it set. Let's see. Yep. Okay. Please accept my apologies on that particular delay. I grabbed the wrong phone and entered the data on the wrong phone, and that would have put me in a put me in bad shape because I wouldn't be able to retrieve my data for the program tonight. So here we go. Um, Normally we start our program with a prayer, and then we do a short reading. I don't see any of our other panelists in the background yet, so I'll just proceed. I'll offer a short word of prayer. Thank you, loving Father, for your guidance, your protection, your wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, for the patience that thou grants us, the fortitude, the strength, the courage, the endurance, for enabling us to broadcast this program. We pray that it may have some public benefit to those who listen, and whatever we have to say, may it accrue to thy honor and glory as well. We ask these mercies in Jesus' name. Amen. We'll do a short passage. Let's see, right here. It says, "For the kingdom of heaven is the kingdom of heaven is like unto a man that is a household which went out early in the morning to his laborers into his vineyard." So the kingdom of heaven is like a man who goes out to do his work early so he can prosper from his vineyard. So those of us who believe in Christianity know that we have a job to do every day, that is to try and live a Christ-like life and do the best we can for ourselves and the rest of humanity. Uh, I'll start tonight's program by reading. I just need to quickly take a minute or so to ask our Belizeans at home and abroad, because I was about to talk about the accidents that we're having at home, but we have them abroad, we have them all over the world. So I'll just make a general comment, and that is that please slow down when you're drinking and driving. Get somebody else to do your driving for you. Take a taxi, do whatever you have to do to avoid having to be behind the wheels, driving one while you're inebriated. You're not in good condition. Some people think that they are. At the end of the day, sometimes they hurt other people and themselves. We need to slow down on that type of activity. Thank you very much again. Let me just go right here quickly. And I want to. So this is, just recently, a few days ago, we had a ruling that was long anticipated and took a long time to be issued by a Belize judge, Supreme Court judge by the name of Mr. Handura, Judge Handura. We've had a lot of problems with some of these new judges that we brought into the country to rule on our cases. And unfortunately, somehow or another, I am of the opinion, my belief is that based on what I know of the law and the history of our legal system or precedents or stare decisis law, or case management process, and everything that has to do with the legal community, It is my impression that these judges are not doing their homework, that is, to familiarize themselves with the local customs, habits, laws, and already established precedents. And so they go and ask each other for assistance instead of doing their own research, and they create mischief. I don't know if it's been done deliberately, but the outcome is, and the end result is actually mischief, which leads some people to believe that they're doing a favor for the people that have them hired. That is, that they don't want to fall afoul of the government who have a contract over their head, and therefore they end up ruling not according to law, which is what is required of them as judges, to rule according to law, and first and foremost within the context of our constitutional prescripts and legal structure. But it seems like they're facilitators for the government's agenda. That is not what we have been used to have in our country as our legal system. Because in our legal system, as small a country as Belize is, and as poor as it is, our people are not stupid. They're not ignorant. They know when they see something that is wrong. They may not all complain about it. Some of us do, as in my instance, because I just will not sit on the side and watch dastardly conduct being performed or carried out by anyone, regardless of who that one is or that person is. I take umbrage to anyone in my country that deals with the affairs of my country to take us for fool and to take us for a ride and or to take advantage of us just because they are given a position of power. The power that is vested in them comes from our constitution, which is directed from us, the people, as a mandamus to the judges via the constitution, and gives them certain powers and authorities to act on our behalf as part of the three legs of governance. We have the um, legislative body, which makes and amends laws. That is to say, the House of Representatives and the Senate. We also have another branch of government, which is the executive, which, along with the Governor General, who is delegated on behalf of the head of state, we have the Prime Minister, the other ministers, members of cabinet, and their support system or personnel or individuals, as well as the other government departments. And then we also have the judiciary, which is supposed to be independent of the other two branches, and which is the vanguard of our constitution and the rights of the people. To the extent that when one of the other branches of government does something unconstitutional, it is the prerogative and the right and responsibility of the judiciary to step to the plate and to caution whichever of those other branches of government are derogating from and or are bastardizing our constitution, because that is their purview. That's their responsibility and obligation. I'm going to read a short commentary that I made not too long ago. As a matter of fact, it was November 11th of 2024 when I made this comment. I started off by saying that the following commentary was made by Leonard, Brackett, myself, and I titled the commentary Error in Judgment. Error in judgment. That is to say that somebody made a judgment that was flawed, incorrect, it was erroneous, for whatever reason it turned out to be, it is and was erroneous. There are different speculations that have been had since then about this particular issue. And little by little, as we came along, we found out that the person who had made that error, we were trying to give them the benefit of the doubt at the time. But now, with hindsight, with everything else that have transpired from then till now, we're in a position to realize and understand that it was a method that was being used to exercise judicial temperament that did not comport with what we are used to, as I said before. But let me go ahead and read the article. I said, the judge erred in not recognizing that Mr. Shinebarrow and his lawyers lied to the judge. The judge was not in a position to be able to recognize that to have been the fact at the time. And as a result, he submitted a ruling that was based on that misjudgment and based on those conflation and lies that was presented to him erroneously, and then end up creating mischief as a result. Why? Because they are asking him to make an expeditious ruling. And no ruling should be made by any judge or anyone, whether expeditiously, timely, and or delayed. No ruling should be made without knowing the facts and without ruling according to law. That's what judges do. That's their responsibility and their jobs. Their jobs is not to kowtow to whoever makes the law this nice and quickly appease them. There's a thing called judicial temperament. And no judge should have to find himself in a situation where their judicial temperament has to be questioned. In other words, it's not impossible that even the best of judges can be criticized for whatever reason, maybe because of difference of opinion, difference of idea, difference of understanding, knowledge, or where, or there are many different reasons why people have difference. So even when a judge is right, sometimes because they are right in the law, but they are wrong in the expectations of a client, they get criticized. But in this instance that we're talking, well, there's quite more than one instance. Out of 7 different rulings that has been had over the last few months, critical and important rulings, I would say 6 out of the 7 were incorrectly ruled and or unconstitutionally dealt with and or maliciously with forethought being disposed of. And as everybody knows, when I use my words and I use certain words, I use them very carefully, as strong and as heavy that some of them may sound. They come with merits because I don't open my mouth and speak to issues, especially issues that are of judicial temperament issues and or legal or constitutional matters. I don't take lightly when I speak to those issues in terms of the words that I use, because I would not like to find myself in a situation where I am conflating or I'm misstating the facts and or I'm found to be playing with my words and trying to bamboozle people. If I don't know about something or I'm not sure of what it is, if I don't know the background of it, I will keep my mouth shut and wait until I get the information. I went on to say, the judge erred in not recognizing that Mr. Shanborough and his lawyers had lied, that is, conflated, misrepresented facts, and were contemptuous to the court in their emergency pleading. That is, they went to the judge and made two pleadings. One, an emergency pleading as regards to the access and control of the building, the headquarters for the UDP. Two, in regards to wanting the judge to make a ruling in terms of who should be or who is or who ought to be the leader of the United Democratic Party. Now, I'll tell you up front, it is not for any judge, jury, or anyone else other than the people who belong to a political party for them to decide who their leader would be. The Constitution of Belize and the Constitution of the United Democratic Party leaves that to the mechanisms of the organizational structure to deal with, which is why you have a Constitution of the UDP. And also the Constitution of Belize under section 13. I think it's section 13 specifically says that no authority should tamper with the rights or the exercise of the rights of anyone that belongs to an organization, an association, or a political party per se. So no judge has the right to tamper into and or rule upon political issues. There's what you call justiciability and non-justiciability. Justiciable and non-justiciable. That is to say, if something is justiciable, the court can entertain it and make a ruling on it with unlimited rights. When something is not justiciable, it means the court is precluded and barred from entertaining any such case and should not indulge itself into playing games and favoring one party over the other, one individual over the other, or anything of that nature. That is not the purview of the court. The court deals with civil matters, it deals with criminal matters, it deals with constitutional matters, it deals with foreign affairs, trade, and international law matters that has to do with boundaries and treaties and things like those. That's the purview of the court. The court has no rights and authority to even rule in regards to the political affairs of the country in terms of how the government, how the executive manages the executive part of the governance powers, except that when the executive is behaving and or doing things that are unconstitutional and outside of the bounds of the powers granted to them, then the court is mandated to step in and allow for judicial review in terms of making sure that the government does not overstep or overreach, including when the legislators make the law. It is not the legislator or the legislative body that determines what the law, whether or not the law is constitutional. That's the purview of the court. The legislator can make any and every law that they want. But if they don't make that law within the boundaries of the Constitution, and that law that is made, even if the whole legislator, 100% of them get together and make it from all the different parties, and that law is unconstitutional, it remains unconstitutional until it is fixed. You cannot make an unconstitutional law and then the court will accept it as being constitutional just because you made it. That is outside of the purview of the legislators. They're supposed to make law within the constraint and the prescripts of the Constitution. Not only do they have the right to make law, they also have the right to amend law. There are certain laws that they can't touch. There are certain laws that are what you call the basic structure. There's what you call the separation of powers doctrine, which is what I spoke to in the beginning when I spoke about the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. That's the separation of powers. But also within the separation of powers, it says that the Constitution leaves certain rights, powers, and prerogatives in the hands of the plebiscite or the people. That is, that those particular issues cannot be dealt with by the government or anyone except they follow certain rules and regulations in order to acquire those powers for them to make use of it. That is by means of a referendum. But I don't want to get all the way out there yet. Let me get back to the point that I was on just now when I was reading this particular article. I went on to say in the article, now I'm going back to the article because just now I was getting a little, I was doing a little bit too much explanation for the topic that I want to deal with, and I was going outside of the topic and kind of giving a global explanation. I went on to say, Mr. Shine Barrow position at the time, because this was back in November, okay, when this was written. So at the time in November, this was written November 11th, and at that time, Mr. Barrow was still the LOO, or leader of the opposition, and that position is not the same as the what was that? Oh, that position by Mr. Barrow as leader of the opposition then, because he was elected to the House and he had the majority of the opposition legislators then vouch for him to be the leader of the opposition at that time. But that position is not one and the same as Ms. Tracy Panton's position as leader of the UDP. Now, in some instances, you can have where both of those positions is occupied by one single individual. And then you have different positions where those positions can be occupied by two different people, which was the case at the time of this article. And the reason why Ms. Panton had been declared the leader of the opposition, the leader of the UDP, is because the UDP have its own constitution that no judge can dictate how they should do it or deal with it, how to amend it, or how to make use of it, or how to like for example, this knucklehead judge here appear not to be sensitized enough to understand and know that it was not within his purview or his authority vested as a judge to try and resolve no internal political issues in the UDP in regards to what the UDP organizational structure should decide to do or not do. That's out of his purview. The Constitution does not allow him any authority or rights to be able to speak to those matters. It prohibits him and any other person from interfering into the affairs of those private entities, political parties, and different organizational structures as stipulated in the Constitution. I'll read some of those to you, hopefully before the program is finished, because that's part of the program for tonight. And I'll show you from the Constitution where it says specifically that this judge or any other judge should not weigh in on those matters. And for this judge to weigh in and end up doing what he did, kept the case in abeyance from November till just a couple days ago, and did not resolve the matter until after an election was held, when the matter was an urgent matter that needed to be resolved before an election was held, amounts to political mischief making. Because by not having had that matter, by taking up that matter which he should not have taken up in the first place, and by taking it up and keeping control over it until he decided to dispose of it whenever he wanted, at his own convenience, it appears that he was doing that on behalf of a political agenda, which again, on that particular point, he is not supposed to be messing around with. Because that was like political sabotage. I'll read the rest of it because it's a short little article and I'm going too long in my extraneous commentary besides the particular article itself. So let me just finish it up because I have others. So Mr. Shan Barrow's position as leader of the opposition is not the same as Ms. Tracy Panton's position as leader of the United Democratic Party. The judge made a hasty temporary ruling, which is what they call it, a temporary ruling. And I added the word hasty by virtue of, because of his hastiness and not knowing what he was dealing with and not having had the time and the opportunity to have appraised himself, he went ahead right there and make a ruling on the seat of the pants, so to speak, and erred. He made a mistake. And because he's a judge, we're supposed to just, okay, well, the judge ruled, so that's it. Judges make mistakes, sometimes wittingly and other times unwittingly, sometimes deliberately with cause and foresight, and sometimes, just an error or oversight, which is why you have appellate courts and why many judges' cases are overturned. Sometimes because they lack the knowledge, and some other times because they don't do their research, or they sit on the down bench and lie to the people in front of them, as we have had recently, and on videotape, for a matter of fact, or on the airwaves. No judge should have to find himself in that situation because there's a thing called code of conduct that precludes a judge from lying and making mischief while operating under the guise and the powers of the authority of a judge. Now, I speak to these matters because it grieves me. I have a right to speak to these matters. I'm a sovereign citizen of my country. And I'm no respecter of person when it comes to anything that has to do with my country. I'll tell you like it is. If you don't like so, do your next best. But don't come to my country or come to me or come to the public or the airwaves and put out craziness and expect that we all just sit by and pretend like, well, we don't understand what the hell took place or what's going on, and just let it be. I'm one of those that will not. The judge made a hasty temporary ruling based on being incorrectly or ill-informed. There was more to that, but I just want to leave that one alone and go to another one quickly. Let me see. Yeah, okay. Need to close this and just go to the next one.
I don't.
Okay, need to go back. Oops. I'm sorry. I just I'm beating up myself here because I'm not getting to these particular items
I don't want to be.
as quick as I want to do. Okay. There's one more. Okay, this is it. Okay, so I went on to write another article in February of this year, February 5th of 2025. And this was mainly a compilation of a series of texts that we were sending back and forth between myself and a few other people or a few other individuals. And we were dealing heavily with the same issue of the UDP dilemma at the time and still currently. All again because of the outcome from the ruling that the judge made, which we're going to deal with again a little later in the program, more substantively and clearly, and with direct reading from the Constitution itself to back up what I'm saying. Because I don't like always just to be saying what I'm saying just because I think I know what I'm talking about. When I'm doing these kind of programs, most of you who have been with us on this platform for a couple of years that we've been dealing with these kind of matters would know that, especially on Friday nights when we deal with these legal and technical constitutional matters, I like to use the Constitution to speak, let it speak for itself. In other words, let people hear what the Constitution has to say about these matters that we are talking about or discussing. So anyhow, I'll go back to this particular, after describing it as being a series of texts, just so that people get an idea of, what is it that I'm reading to them. I'll go ahead then and indulge in reading this portion here. I said, the following comments and text were made between Leonard Brackett, myself, and Mr. Raymond Lashley, and Miss Shanika White. On Miss Shanika White's Facebook post in the Belize Elections Watch page in regards to the UDP power dilemma. So then I went on to title this particular essay, UDP's power dilemma. And the first text that I used in this particular series came from Mr. Raymond Lashley, in which he said, my fellow Belizeans, please turn your attention to the 1993 general election. And he posted also a link to that particular item that he was talking about, which describes the election and different things that happened during the course of the election. I won't get into all the details of that because I'm not going to hit the link now and let it change my additional materials that I want to continue reading. But I just bring that to your attention for further clarity, because it is based on that particular statement that he made just now that the rest of the conversation is going to be contingent. So as regards to the second text, which was from myself, Mr. Leonard Brackett, I said, Mr. Raymond Lashley, temperament, sir, is the key. Temperament. And the reason why is because we were talking about the behavior and what caused the behavior of Mr. Shinebarrow and what caused the UDP to end up with such a dilemma, to the point where he was trying to kick out people out of the party and other people were attempting to do just about the same to him back. And the end result is that, as a background, before I go to the next text, as a background piece of information, what had happened is that during the last election for leadership of the party, there was an underhanded activity that took place just in order to get Mr. Shine declared as the winner. And when the other contestant demanded a recount because they knew something had happened and they wanted to make sure that the recount would have shown exactly what was being done, the chairman at the time, Mr. Perefit, told Ms. Panton's observers and members who were there for the counting of the ballots, that if she didn't like what ended up happening on Mr. Barrow having been declared as the winner, despite the fact that something had taken place that shouldn't have taken place, because Ms. Panson was actually supposed to have been the one declared the winner. He told Ms. Panson's people, them, if you don't like it, take it up in court. Or in other words, I'll see you in court if if you feel like you have legs to stand on. When in fact, they knew from then that having declared to install Mr. Barrow was a contrivance of what the Constitution prescribed, but that because they were members of the central executive, that they decided whatever they declared would be what would stand. And to have what they declared to be overturned, it would take another constitutional convention, and they had already came to the convention and asked the convention to declare that they will not have any contestant for leadership of Mr. Barrow's leadership then until after the next general election. That is to say, they were contriving and betraying the very Constitution on which they were relying on to govern the UDP as a party. They were trying to overthrow the process, to bastardize the Constitution. Now, they are aggrieved that we have a government in place that is bastardizing our national constitution, and they themselves, as party organization, are bastardizing the very party organization. They are not then any more better than the present government in that regard. You have treacherous people at both ends of the table, so to speak. So Ms. Panton decided she was not going to take the matter to court. She was going to live with the outcome of the end result and just move on. Because Mr. Barrow was declared to be the winner by a small margin of individuals, he then proceeded thereafter to kick out people from the different divisions and to install people of his own liking so that those people can capture the votes and the delegates, the biannual delegates in those divisions, so that when the next election would come around, he would have captured enough votes to prevail at the ballot box and then become or continue to be leader again. And by him deciding to behave in that kind of unseemly way, other members in the party was aggrieved. And there's battles going back and forward that, in fact, started long before that particular instance. But to clarify, the things that happened before will take a little bit more time than I have on this particular show, and therefore I'm limited to presenting just the program that I'm trying to present now. But I just gave you that little background information there to let you understand that the issues that we're looking at currently did not start just when Mr. Barrow came to the party. But he tried to run and strong the process, and because he was a favored son of the previous prime minister, he felt like he have a right and have probably bought the party and supposed to control the party against the will of the people. That's not how we do it in Belize. So a lot of people were against him for that kind of malicious and devious conduct. And instead of the man realized that he didn't have to go that way, that he could have bided his time being a young man, and he could have been in a position to be a good leader, he tried to, like I said, run and strong the process. And when people started to buck back or start to give him resistance, he become violent and bellicose, to the point where he is going to go to the House of Representatives and try to tell the House Speaker to kick out some of his own parliamentarian party members out of the house. That's how ludicrous and crazy the gentleman became. How totally out of order. He didn't do that with his own auntie, who was not attending any kind of house meeting, because his auntie, who was also elected, even though not attending the house meeting, was one of those who kept him in the position of leader of the opposition. And her votes were secured for his taking in any elections for leadership. But he wanted to take out other people who were potential contenders to his leadership. He wants to vanish them from the party and make the party into his own likeness only. Only those who would agree with him to be the leader of the party. So some of those same people who were aggrieved with what he was doing mustered up enough delegates from the biennial conference, because when you go to the first biennial conference that you attend, when you are certified, you'll get a certificate for 2 years. And within that 2 years, any second, any minute, any hour, any day, any week, any month, or any year, within those 2-year period, the majority of the delegates to that biannual conference can call a conference. And there's a process by which they can do that, what the Constitution prescribes for them to be able to do that. That is that the chairman, the party secretariat, the leader, and the central executive members then get together, set up the date and time for whatever meeting these delegates want to have, and they go ahead and have their chance to discuss and harangue about whatever is it that ails them. They have that power. They are the highest power within the Constitution of the United Democratic Party. And all other officers and organizations of the United Democratic Party are subservient to that conference. That conference delegates to these other individuals positions and authority to act on behalf of that biennial conference. That's where the highest power and authority of the party lies. Not in Mr. Barrow as leader, not in Mr. Perfit as chairman, or any other vice chairman, or any of the other members of the party. And even if all the other leaders, they get together, they do not have enough power to overthrow or change or stop any of the decisions that the biennial conference or party conference decides. They have no authority and power to overthrow or change any of that. Neither does a judge. And the reason why there was that October 20th of 2024 convention of the biennial conference is because when they were wanting to have the conference, they followed the procedure. They went to the chairman and the other people and submit to them a request and the names of the amount of people that was required under the Constitution for them to legally have a meeting. The chairman, Mr. Perfit, tell them no, he won't entertain that. He won't allow them to go ahead and do that as if he have that power. He's talking to his boss and telling his boss that he won't let his boss run the boss' own company. That he as an employee going to dictate and stop the boss from being able to have that meeting. So the majority went ahead and had their meeting and fired his butt. And they told him why they wanted to have the meeting, and that's the reason why he had already been bought over by Mr. Barrow, and his job was to protect Mr. Barrow's leadership and keep him in that position. Regardless of what the Constitution says, regardless of him derogating his responsibility, regardless of what the conference had dictated, to the point where Mr. Barrow then take the matter to the court, which he should not have done in the first place, because the court should have just turned him around and told him that they would not have entertained that stuff, other than for the fact that we were dealing with somebody who apparently at the time never knew what the hell they were supposed to do and how to do it, or to say that they had no jurisdiction in the matter. They took it upon themselves to accept it and hold over the matter, not even accept the matter and deal with it expeditiously, but to hold it over until he, the judge, decide what he wants to do and how he wants to do it. In other words, whatever time it's going to take for him to be able to learn the facts, that's how long he was going to hold over that case for, to the point that he didn't rule before the election, which was reasonably expected. And now he's ruling after the election and still not wiping the egg that he had on his face. He's now washing his face with rotten eggs. That's untenable. The man is supposed to rule according to law. The law says that he, first of all, has no right to be dipping into no private people's business or private organizations' business, especially because they have a constitution, as in regards to political party. And he has no right to dictate to them what they should do, how they should do, or who is to be their leader or not their leader, or whether or not they have a right to sack their own leader. He violated his own ethics. He violated the rules. He violated the Constitution of the United Democratic Party, and he violated the Constitution and the prescripts and directions that he is under and mandated under to not interfere with these people's rights. So he violated the Constitution of Belize, he violated the UDP Constitution, and he violated even his basic code of conduct. His judicial temperament was not one of following the law and abiding to the law, fidelity to the Constitution, and rule according to law. Because now he made a ruling that did not comport with the Constitution of Belize, nor does it comport with the Constitution of the United Democratic Party. And all he's ending up doing is creating more mischief. And I would personally say it is not because the gentleman is not lucid enough, knowledgeable enough, competent enough, other than the fact that he's doing a political job on behalf of his political masters who have a contract over his head. That's my perception. I could be wrong. But the evidence so far proves me right. And the alternative to that evidence proving me right is for them to provide additional evidence that will prove me wrong. But we're talking about actions, behavior, things that has already happened. We're not talking about a proposal for the future of what might happen. So my analysis is about what has occurred. A bastardization of our Constitution has occurred, and mischief making has occurred, to the point that the mischief making is still ongoing, even after the ruling. That's craziness. But anyhow, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little emotional and personal with this presentation. Of course I do, because let me confess to the general public here and now, the reason why this particular issue ails me is because I was the person who instigated the creation of what became known as United Democratic Party. Okay? From 1970, I have been involved with that process to instigate the creation of that entity, which then was called a working team among the 4 political parties, opposition parties of that time. And then subsequently, that working team worked so well together that we constituted ourselves into a what you call organized political structure under the title of the Unity Congress of British Honduras, which gave birth to the United Democratic Party, of which I was one of the 3 members who drafted the original constitution and worked my butt off from then till today's date to see that party fulfill its political mandate as well as its constitutional obligations. So that's for you, those who don't know who I am and why is it that what's going on ails me to the point of my having to speak to it, regardless of who all are involved. I don't give a hoot whether it's a judge being mischief maker and or committing crimes against my country in terms of bastardizing my country's constitution and bastardizing the constitution that I helped to create myself. I'll take it to task. You do the right thing, and I have nothing to say, because then if you're doing the right thing, who am I to object to the right thing? But if you're committing crimes, then I'm the one that's going to come to you and tell you about it. Now, you might not like it, but all you could do is your next best. You could sue me for defamation, you could sue me for this, for that, for whatever. But you cannot be defamed with the truth. So you can play all kind of word game that you want and say whatever else you want, deal with the facts. If you're going to be a judge in my country, be an honest, upright judge, and don't be playing no hanky-panky behind the scene just for a few dollars. But when we catch you, we're going to bring you to the public, and we're going to rain justice on you. Fire and brimstone. Okay? Ask Mr. Musa. Mr. Price dead. Say, okay, ask Mr. Price. Mr. Musa is still alive. You want information about what you don't know? It's good to know what you don't know. You don't born knowing what you don't know. You need to learn it. Nevertheless, I was reading that particular article, and let me see. Just give me a second. Let me get back to it, please. Okay. So I was reading the article that in regards to the text, the different texts that we were bantering back and forth between some of us who were having a healthy discussion on some of the issues. Difference of opinion. That doesn't necessarily have to make you an enemy of nobody, or anybody make them an enemy of yourself. People can have difference of opinion, difference of ideas, conclusion, understanding. Why? We all don't stand at the same spot and look from the same vantage point. So therefore, we all perceive things differently. I'll go ahead then and read I read the first and the second text. Well, I didn't finish with the second text. I'll just read the rest of it. As a matter of fact, I'll start it over, because the piece that I read was very short. Number 2, it says, Mr. Leonard Brackett, I said to Mr. Raymond Lashley, temperament, sir, is the key. Basically, in one word, I was trying to say to Mr. Lashley that the temperament of the gentleman that we were talking about was questionable, and I was trying to say in that one word a whole lot of different things. That is that because the gentleman's temperament was such that got him into the kind of hot water and problems that he was in, and the mischief that he was creating ended up making a big hullabaloo when it ought not to have been. That is that had he been disciplined, and his chairman had been disciplined at the time that they committed that dastardly act, then he would not have been aided and abetted and encouraged to continue wanting to commit additional devious acts. So his temperament got the best of him. I went on to say, Shine is not like Mr. Golson or Mr. Esquivel, because at a point before then, somebody had mentioned that Shine, is trying to clean up the political dirt that's going on in the country, and all kind of, they were trying to like give the man a whole lot of credits for stuff that he has. As a neophyte, he has no knowledge or experience in dealing with. So at that point, then we were, like I said, bantering back and forward. So I try to explain in a short, because as much as you gentlemen and ladies and young people, old people, whoever, wherever you are, hear me expound on this particular platform, and a lot of time I use up a lot of different words when I talk, you know, when I'm writing, I have a penchant for trying to say a whole lot of things in a shortly sentence. I call them banner statements. And most of the time, I make some of them in cap letters, or I make quite a few of them in quotations. That is to say, whatever is said between that quotation mark is a little less than could be said. Or, like I say, I use them as banner statement. That is to say, behind the banner, there's a whole long story that could be said. Now, I love to talk, and probably, I don't know if that's a fault of mine or what, If it is a fault, I'll accept it and acknowledge it. But I like to communicate. I like to interact with people, and that is how I think I was able to learn what I learned throughout my little lifespan, by interacting with people, especially those who were much older than myself, who were smarter than myself, and who were able to impart some knowledge to me. So I don't mind sharing whatever I've picked up on my journey, but sometimes it seems like I've become overbearing, no? I kind of like, I want to get out everything while having my head in a one couple of words only, and that can't happen. So let's go back to the topic of the day, or the topic of the night, because of night right now. I don't know. Anyhow, okay, so I said Mr. Shan is not like Mr. Goldston or Mr. Esquivel, because somebody was trying to put him in that category. Unfortunately, I went on to say Shan will never follow Tracy Tega Panton as leader of the United Democratic Party, and so far I've been proven right. For those who are following and paying attention, right? I made that statement back in when was it? February 5th, I think it was. Let me see. Let me go back to the top. Yeah, February 5th. And I had known that long before I made that particular statement in this article, okay? Because my job in my country is to keep archives on any and everybody that becomes a politically exposed person, okay? Anybody that has anything to do with the politics of my country or the governance of my country, I do research on them and I keep archives on them. So when I'm talking about them or to them, they can have their say and their way probably, but they're a known quantity to me. That's my job, and I take my job seriously. I'll move forward and I'll say Shan will never follow Tracy Tega Panton as leader of the UDP, which is why he is hell-bent trying to amass UDP National Party Conference or biannual conference delegates, as I described a little earlier. Why is it that the gentleman was conducting himself in that order, right? Trying to dismiss even elected officials from their position. When he couldn't get that done, and the Speaker of the House told him that he had no such power because those people were elected in their own rights, he used another backstabbing leverage to tell the Speaker of the House that he did not want any of those individuals to be members of any of the working committees in the House. Now, mind you, the UDP at that time only had 5 elected officials, okay? And he wanted to get rid of 2 of them. I mean, For those who don't really know or understand the background of these issues, right? I mean, it's laughable. It's pathetic. That's how much the gentleman knows about politics and how much commitment and interest and patriotism he had in the well-being of the party and the country as a whole. That instead of working to try and gain more members into the House, he's trying to kick out those that are there already. And every by-election means you're losing, you have the potential to lose a particular seat, right? And when he get these people to get them kicked out of the committees that he was authorized to appoint people to, and he took back their appointments, he did not avail himself or make himself available to those committees so that he at least could go and attend those committee meetings and do the work that needs to be done in those committees, so that at least on behalf of the people from whom he is taking a salary as the leader of the opposition, that at least he could say, well, he's doing or performing his functions. And if he don't want the other people to perform theirs, then he should be able to step in and help perform those other functions as well. All right. Anyhow, and the only reason why the gentleman was going on like that is because he was kicked out of the United States. He wanted to go to Israel. They didn't want him there. He came back to Belize as a last resort. His father was the prime minister of Belize, gave him a little chance to become, involved in the politics of the country. He became elected out of the smallest division in the country. There are some divisions that have 10,000 people. The division that he was running out of has less than 2,000, or at least about 2,000 plus or minus at the most. So the gentleman was given everything on a platter of gold. And he's going to walk in and destroy it all. Why? Because he's spending a little money to help finance the party activities, and therefore he thinks that he is buying the party or owns the party. And he's going to haul and pull the party and do what he wants with it, and to hell with anybody else. It doesn't work like that. That's not what those of us who came from the foundation of that party created and worked for that party as of today did, 50 odd years after. For him to come and just play craziness with. We're talking about a whole country. We're not talking about a little fiefdom that this guy have in the background there in a backyard. But anyhow, let me get off the stump. A lot more coming. By the way, 1 minute and 1 hour and 7 minutes. I'm supposed to go to 1 hour and 30 minutes, so I still have a few minutes left. I'm going to go ahead and finish read the rest of this if you allow me. Which is why, like I said, he had been trying to amass UDP National Party Conference or biannual conference delegates to retain leadership by kicking out elected area representatives and standard bearers from the opposition, so that he can install new standard bearers for those areas and have delegates appointed that will be available to him in numbers for him to win the next election. When in fact he was saying, okay, don't try to kick him out, just let him ride out the bogus elected status that he had, and then at the end of that he will demit. It was all a lie. He never had any intention to demit. Otherwise, he would not have been trying to kick out elected officials out of their office and position in order for him to install people that were not elected. When he grabbed the power of leader of the opposition, he didn't even have the decency to consult with the leader of the party on that matter. He just went to the Governor General and tell the Governor General that he have the support of his auntie and the other gentleman, Mr. Pat from Corozal North. And on that basis, the Governor General gave him assent to the position of leader of the opposition, because the person that was the leader of the opposition before he did that could only come up with 2 votes and he could come up with 3. And the man had just been elected. He never had no experience, no knowledge, no understanding about politics in Belize, much less national politics. But he wanted to grandstand. He needed to get a diplomatic visa so that he could make trips back to the United States where his material assets are locked up and his money. Now, I didn't have a problem with that. My problem is when the man is going to start being nefarious, devious, and malicious and try to destroy the party internally. It's bad enough we got to contend with the opposition. I mean, with the other party, to which we are the opposition while they are the government. But nobody would expect that your own party leader can be the one to. Man, I spoke to the gentleman when I went to Belize for that 3-month trip the last time, and I tried to explain to him he had to have a little magnanimity in order for the matter to work out. Within 2 days of my speaking with the gentleman, while I was working behind the scenes to try and see if things would have worked out, very hard pressed because, some of the individuals were adamant about not wanting to have much to do with him because of their past experience with the man. And I was still trying to, for peace sake and for the long-term prospects of the party, to minimize the damage. But within those 2 days, the man got under the house, like I said, and try. Man, let me finish this little piece of thing because we got a lot to go. And I don't run out of time while I comment. So I did indicate that Mr. Barrow would never work with Ms. Pantona, with Ms. Pantona as a leader. Because that was his character, was his personality. To retain leadership by keeping out elected area representatives, kicking out elected area representatives, and duly installed standard bearers, which was his detractors, people that were not favorable to him. Or anyhow, and that was the end of that particular text. And then I went on to a third text here, which was written by Miss Shamika White, a young lady that is very active in the internet, and she has some interesting thoughts, and she's trying to, like make a contribution, at least as far as she can see. But also, she's lacking. She's I shouldn't say lacking, because that's the word can be misinterpreted. She has her own horse in the race, then basically. Let me put it like that. And when you have your own horse in the race, no care how bad your horse to do, you always try rally and hope that you come up on a few spaces in the race, no, and maybe come in, if not at least first, second, or third, at least maybe back in the pack, but at least not last. So that's life. So Ms. Shamika White wrote to me as one of the people in the discussion that we were having right back and forward with it, banter around. And she said, Leonard Brackett, he, being Mr. Shine, is not like anyone else or anybody else, because no two people are the same, which is obvious, of course. So, nothing wrong with that. However, she says, we cannot judge a man based on the hatred that other selfish people have for him. In other words, she's trying to say, well, there are other hateful people who hate Mr. Shine, and therefore we shouldn't judge Mr. Shine based on how the other hateful people judge him or react to him, right? Now, I still don't have no problem with that either. She said, I would believe every word they say if they could, if they cared about Belize. The only She says they only care about removing him so that is what I can listen to. So that's why I can't listen to them. I think that's what she was trying to say. So, but even that, I mean, that's a fair commentary. It's her own observations, analysis, and conclusion, and we're all entitled to that. The Constitution tells us that we're all entitled to that. It's a guardian prerogative, by the way, too. So I still wouldn't have a problem with that. The problem that I would have afterwards, though, is if she's reading the conversations that's going on, then she would need to be a little bit more circumspect in terms of throwing out those kind of words, because the conversation that we're having is one of rationalizing certain particular issues or point of contentions. And if you're going to be hostile, which I don't think she really was in this particular statement here, so I'm giving her credit for that. She's stating her opinion and ideas, and good enough that at least she was one of the persons that took her time to participate in the discussion and contribute her own thoughts, even if it's not the same as mine or anybody else's. She's entitled to them. So, as far as I'm concerned, kudos to her. That doesn't mean I share her opinion or ideas or concept or conclusions. Okay, so let me go to item number 4, or the fourth text in this particular series here that I aggregated. I said, Mr. Raymond Lashley. No. Mr. Raymond Lashley said to me, okay, I'm sorry. He said, Leonard Brackett. Yes, sir. Mr. Barrow is the what? Mr. Barrow is the same as Wilson, but we are also living in different era, and perhaps the approach in leadership needs to change. Nothing wrong with that. While the Alliance for Democracy, now this is where the issue will come in now, right? Because the group of individuals within the UDP who call themselves the Alliance, because they're an alliance, it's a group of the same people inside the UDP who are trying to. By the way, let me, for clarity and understanding, I think I mentioned it earlier. The UDP was created out of 4 different parties. And because they came from different perspectives and they decided to work together and they called themselves a name as UDP, it didn't mean that they all stopped being who they were when they came in. They came in with their own baggages, with their own ideas. And from then until now, those ideas are conflicting with each other's as time went on. And as we currently are, and time will continue to go on. You have different factions inside of that organization that don't see eye to eye. And the only time that organization wins, that party wins general elections, is when they are able to come together and coalesce, because they're an amalgamated group that came from different political perspectives. It has never been a monolith for various reasons, some of which I have historically recorded. I have a book of about 600 pages that I'm writing about the early days of the UDP, right? The history. Because to me, part of the problem that we have right now is because the younger generations who are in the party leading it have no knowledge and understanding about what the party was created for, what's the purpose for its existence, what was its mission, And the end result is that they keep on repeating the same mistakes decades after decades after decades. They see themselves as being the new kid on the block. And some of them join and ride the party when the party is successfully running government. and they feel like that's all that is to it. You win election, you run the government, and you get fat at the treasury. That's what PUP does. That's what UEP does. That's what all the parties have been doing from since Independence Day. But let me finish this one here, no? Please, by Mr. Lashley. He went on to say, let me see where I stopped off just now. Yeah, okay. He says, while the Alliance for Democracy, AFD, he calls it, is focusing on what is this? Oh, disparaging. Okay. He says, while the Alliance for Democracy is focusing on disparaging the leader to embarrass and demean, he is addressing major shortcomings of the POP, which, as far as I can tell, the poor gentleman was not the truth. He was assuming that was his assumption and maybe his belief. I can't fault him for his belief because maybe he doesn't know the rest of what I have been advocating or saying, or what other people know, or what the gentleman himself know. So everybody is entitled to their opinion. So this is his opinion. Who am I to beat him on for his opinion? But that doesn't mean I subscribe to what he's saying, because I happen to know otherwise. I'm privy to inside the house things that goes on. In fact, I'm one of the operators that instigate and manipulate and pull things. It's my job. I don't put myself up for election, but I'm a behind-the-scene operator. And when things go wrong, I'm always the first to jump and look for kick some butts. That's just who I am and what I've always been. Anyhow, the gentleman is saying he's telling the informed. Presumably, he thinks he's talking to the uninformed, but he's telling the informed. In my case, me, because my name is Carl, right? Me, I just this text too. So the man is trying to elucidate me on stuff that he doesn't know anything about and that I'm. But anyhow, let's not disparage the project. The gentleman is trying to, we're bantering back and forth. We're having a conversation. So out of due respect, at least, let me not try to throw aspersion on the gentleman's attempt of trying to inform. So he's saying that Mr. Barrow is trying to do the good things for the party to help the party move along, while other people are trying to destroy Mr. Barrow. When in fact it's just the opposite. That Mr. Barrow to try to get people out of his way so he could take over and control the party, not only as a leader, but to run the party for his own dynasty. In other words, he wants to be a little Papa Doc. His dad was the older Papa Doc, and then now he's a younger Papa Doc or younger Doc. But the gentleman didn't allow himself to, or didn't avail himself of proper political guidance. He had a little money, and people read the eye at the man money, and then they start giving bad advice, and mislead the gentleman into creating a wreck of his own political career and almost destroy the whole party, which is unfortunate. The AFD has opted to give the POP a pass. That is not true. That is not true. How the AFD, in other words, just the insinuation itself, they keep on saying that the AFD is a different party than the UDP. I was about to say something out of the way just so I gotta contain myself and be realistic. The whole of this issue that they kept on repeating this AFD scenario is to disparage those who were operating under the AFD situation because they were not inclined to accept the premise that Mr. Barrow was pushing. And so they decided that they was going to hang together and resist his nefarious conduct. And because they were successful in resisting his conduct to a large extent, they were being disparaged and being called all kind of name and being, told that they were spoilers. And at one point, Mr. Barry even gone to the point of kicking out some of them out of the party, saying that they had constructively resigned. and after when he did finally resign himself, he didn't constructively resign. He physically tendered his resignation, which was accepted. Now he's saying that he wants to unresign because he wants to be able to, according to how the judge, the mischief-making judge, rule, as if the judge don't understand what the hell he's doing, right? Only we could see that as mischief he's creating. He can't figure that out. So you're going to say that Mr. Barrow fired Tracy and some other people at the party, or at least was trying to, get rid of them. And so the judge is saying, well, Mr. Barrow should not have done that, or that was not done correctly. And the judge is also saying that, well, at the time, Mr. Barrow was still the leader, and as the leader, nobody couldn't kick him out of the party, which is incorrect. That the judge is apparently quite oblivious of the fact that the party structure and the party powers, maximum powers that within the Constitution, is the biannual delegates. And those biannual delegates can constitute unto themselves a meeting any second, like I said earlier, any minute, any hour, any day, any week, any month, any year. That's their prerogatives. And nobody have the right to tell them what to do or not do when they're in session. Mr. Perifit and Mr. Perifit and Mr. Agas and Mr. Barrow and others try to block them and stop them from having a meeting. And they say, well, the meeting wasn't agreed by them. And a whole lot of, as if they are the one that determine. They are subordinate officers to this organization. The organization delegate power to them to do certain things on behalf of the organization. And when they fail, it is the rights of the organization to step to the plate and make amends. So in other words, if Mr. Barrow never want lose his seat, and Mr. Perifit never want Mr. Barrow lose his seat, then they could stall and stop this conference from ever coming into existence or ever coming into play. And it will only come into play when they are ripe and happy or willing to allow it. That's a bastardization of the Constitution. The Constitution says that they are subordinate officers and they follow directions. They don't make the laws. They don't sanction the laws. They're not the maximum authority of the party. And the party don't belong to Mr. Barrow or any one of them as members of any subordinate committees. What part of that these people pretend not to be able to understand or know, it's ludicrous. Probably going to be running out of time in the next few minutes. And so let me try and get beyond this one. Oh, this, okay. This is a long one. Let me see how much I could do with it. In doing justice to Mr. Raymond Lashley, right? Because, spending time, write all these words and put his thought together and engaging and trying to, like I said, sometimes people speak out of turn or they don't know what they're talking about or they think they know what they're talking about and they're trying to contribute or they're trying to look lucid or so, and you're engaged with them and you're back and forward. And so, you got to put up with people and allow people to, feel comfortable enough to, because in any verbal engagement that you're having with people, don't care how much you think you know, there is the possibility that you could learn something new. All you got to do is have an open mind. But if you're going to lock off your mind because you feel like you know more than them, or you feel like they don't have nothing to contribute to you, then you're losing out. And by you losing out, you're making those who are able to hear you lose out, because then you have less wisdom, less knowledge, less understanding, and you're not growing. You're not getting any new thing in your head. You're not creating new positive um, opportunities. And at the end of the day, they shrivel up like one raisin, and you drop dead and you carry knowledge with you. That's not the purpose of living. Interact with people, open up your mind, listen to people, hope that they will do the same, exchange of ideas, meeting of the mind, and we are all the better for so doing. Okay? So let me give the gentleman a kudos here and try and see if I could finish up this little part. Again, I'm apologizing to those of you who are listening to our presentation tonight, because we're presenting information and issues, some of which is widely known commodity. Others is, like you say, behind the scenes stuff that some people don't have the opportunity to be exposed to and or deal with or understand. And that is the purpose of our program, to go behind the scenes and provide you the additional clarity so that you can be better informed. Because believe me, our country is small, but we're in a very precarious situation right now. And we need everybody's hand on board. Anyhow, I went on to say that Mr. Raymond Lashley indicated here in his text. He says that the AFD has opted. Okay, I read that part already. I passed that. Yeah, okay, I read passed that too. I'm trying to find a spot where I left off. Okay, I think this is it. The AFD sole purpose for their existence, he said, is to remove the party leader. And that was not necessarily true. It became a viable option after the fact, when the party leader would not cease and desist his malignant conduct to try and get rid of everybody that did not follow his directive. Or in other words, the poor gentleman wanted, or I would say, he maybe had the idea that he could act like an autocrat in the party and everything will be well. He fails to understand that autocracy doesn't work too well in Belize. We have had many leaders in Belize who have tried that kind of nonsense before, and they're all in the dustbin of the history of of our country. It never did work, and it never will work. Not only just in Belize, but all over the world. Whenever you have autocrats come into power and try and haul and pull, and people rebel, and at the end of the day, the country retrogress, and it becomes worse off before it ever gets a chance to move forward. All because some people feel like they can power play and overreach, and there's no resistance, and they control and own the day. This little part is almost finished here. It says that they have shown no desire to fight for the ordinary man, which is not true either. That's another conflation on him. At that point, I'm tending to believe that he's trying to talk down the UDP leadership as being not equal to PUP, when in fact it is only under the UDP party that the small person in the country gets a break. Okay, the PUP party is a mass party and have always been the biggest mass party in the country, at least over many years. But they don't cater to the small man. They cater to the big man. We help finance them the political activity on election day. When they give out their money, give out the couple of beer, and give out them barbecue and the other stuff, and people run, go eat up their stuff and go vote for them, and then they stay hungry for the next 5 years. That's not how UDP operate. When when PUP came in this last administration, the first thing Ms. Baldemarmus and the rest of PUP then did, cut out the pantry and cut off the stuff then what the people in need because they were in COVID and they had economic problems in the whole country. UDP was borrowing money from the bank in order to continue the pantry and help people survive through the COVID. It's a difference of humanitarian mindset. But the poor gentleman here is intimating that, probably he doesn't know better. Or maybe he's getting misguided and misled by the lot of talkings that he hear, and he misattribute to the wrong group, the wrong I mean, these things happen in life. We're not talking about miracles. Anyhow, so let me just finish it off. I had about 3 or 4 lines, and now I can't remember what part of the line I left off. Instead of just wasting more time just trying to search, I'll just read from one spot, pick a spot and read. It says, they have shown no desire to fight for the ordinary man and give themselves a chance at winning the upcoming general election, which was not going to happen. That wasn't going to happen, and it's already in the past now too. So, that was a known comment. So my brother, he's saying to me now again, Shine Barrow isn't Golson, but neither is anyone within the FDJ, the AFD. Now, all of what he was saying there was to attribute a kind word to Mr. Shine, right? For Mr. Shine getting bashed for Mr. Shine's own misconduct, misbehavior, and maliciousness, in trying to kick people out of the parliament. Now, I mean, this gentleman is speaking as if he really doesn't know what was happening then, what had happened before, and he's just hoping against the odds that what he's saying, the good words that he's spewing out here, amongst the truth. And unfortunately, unless he puts this against the reality of what was happening, his truth is only truth to him, not truth to the wider people who are involved with this process and have to deal with these processes and these situations with this gentleman, who was power playing the process and as of today, still even after the judge ruled, the man is still pretending that, okay, well, he is the leader of the UDP, which apparently he thinks he wants, despite the fact that he lost his seat, and he can't be no leader without one seat. Well, I mean, anyway, I think I'm overdoing it. I'm getting kind of we are far beyond our time. I don't realize that the time gone that quick for me. I'm like 6 minutes above my time, so I'll just for right now. We'll have many other nights to hopefully take up the rest of what I had planned for tonight and maybe conclude it some other night. But for right now, I just want to say to those of you who spend your time listening to our program tonight, and those who will be listening afterwards at your own convenience, as I notice the numbers of people who listen to the program usually goes up substantively overnight. I just want to say to you, on a personal basis, thanks for your time spared in listening to what we had to offer. I hope you have benefited from something that we had to offer on the program tonight, and that it may accrue to your positive benefit. And I have some people that I'll need to get back to after the show is closed. I'll just review their text and communicate back with them. Again, my name is Leonard Brackett. I was the chairman for tonight's program. Tonight being Friday, 9th of May. And our program was program number 291. Thank you very much, and God bless Belizean and Belizeans at home and abroad and the rest of humanity. Good night.